Hello, everyone. This is John Sullivan. I am ambassador for the Mike Ferry organization, and I'm delighted to welcome you back to the podcast, Mike Ferry's podcast. And I'm talking today with a great agent, Jason Penrose. So, Jason, welcome. I appreciate you joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, John.
So, just a quick introduction. Tell me about who you are, how long in the business, what market, and if you have a team or if you're an individual agent, a little bit of background there.
Sure. So I'm out of Scottsdale, Arizona, Scottsdale, Phoenix, the greater area. If you're not sure what cities I service, if it's 115 degrees, I service it. So
Okay.
I got my license in 1999, got my broker's license in '07. So this August will have been 27 years I've had my license, and I do have a team.
You have a team. Okay. So, 1999 got your license. So, you were how old?
I was born in '77, so I don't know, like
Okay.
22. Yeah.
22. So what's really interesting is we just quickly were chatting before coming on. We heard your son Ethan on stage last year at the was it Superstar Treat
I
Retreat?
think so. I think it was,
Yeah.
yeah. It's all a
And
blur when
he's
you've been to so
now
many of them.
and he's now 22. So how's
Yeah.
that dynamic? Because a lot of people in real estate, they do bring it through the family. That's very common.
Yeah.
Has that
Yeah.
given you a new lease of life? Has it been exciting for you?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great to have him on. I mean, he got his license just after he turned 18
Okay.
and started working for me and setting appointments and going, taking his own listings and just mentoring him and how to do the business, how to work with sellers, scripting and role playing. And he took the bull by the horns. I mean, he literally for the first 18 months, he was role playing 2.5 hours a day, Monday through Friday with agents, Mike Ferry agents all throughout the country.
Wow.
And a couple of the calls I would hear, I was like, wow, man, you really worked hard to close that deal. Congratulations. He goes, no, that was just a role play. I'm like, man, that was intense.
Yeah.
And so he did that religiously for like 18 months, just literally 2.5 hours a day was in his schedule. And then he prospect for another 3, 4 hours a day. And that's how he took off so quickly. It's just his dedication to role playing practice was beyond anything I've ever done.
So
Mhm.
Uh, I sometimes look back at the start of my career and think I was actually probably a better agent 10 years ago. I used to do better practices. Why do
Yes.
you think, as agents, do we just get complacent? What do you think it is? Because obviously you've got a phenomenal business. I mean, how many deals will your team do this year?
I think we'll pick it closer to it's like 200 by the end of the year. I mean, we're pushing for that. We're a little behind this year on that number just
Okay.
because total sales volume is down. I will say that the reason a lot of agents don't role play in practice, as they've done it a long time, is I guess you can call it complacency, right? Or they think there's no new objections, and so I already know what to say.
Mm.
However, if you don't practice, you can become lazy or like a little too relaxed, and you're not on edge enough to
Okay.
respond quicker to a lead. And
So,
so, yeah, it can cost you. It can.
so is he stronger on the phones than you are now, or are you still on the phones every day?
I'm still on the phones, not as much as I used to be, but yeah, I'm still on the phones, and he is strong. I mean, I listen to him, and he pushes the envelope, and then I'll give him some feedback after I hear a call, and say, hey, I would
Okay.
do this differently, or hey, I'm getting this objection a lot. This is kind of new, and there's some new objections for him, or some new challenges for him because he hasn't seen a market like this one before, right, where
Hmm.
sellers are upside down, and so we're rescripting and we're learning how to handle that, and just bringing back that something we haven't dealt with for a long time, and probably a lot of newer agents that they've been in the business years or less, they probably haven't had to deal with people who might be upside down in their homes. Right?
Honestly, even me, I've been in the business now 10 and a half years, and I'm going through and having conversations that I've never been through. So it's definitely challenging. But take
Sure.
me back to when you first started, you got into real estate. I always want to find out, like, everyone's got a story
Yeah.
about how they met Mike. How did you come across the Mike Ferry organization?
Huh. Uh, Actually, I was referred to go to an action workshop by the broker that was running the team that I was on a long time ago, and he said you should go see Mike Ferry, and I said okay, and I went to it. It was Tom Ferry who was doing the action workshop. And I'd never seen Tom before. I'd never been to any of those workshops, and he was so dynamic and so powerful. And he would say, John over here is going to sell 90 homes this year, but he goes, turn to your neighbor and say, but is he happy? Right. And we would laugh and have a good, John's going to make $800,000 this year. This was like 20 plus years ago, but is he happy? Right. And so he was really engaging with the audience. He delivered the workshop perfectly and got everyone into it. So motivating, so inspiring. And then when I saw all I needed was scripts and a phone, I'm like, oh, that isn't going to cost me anything because I didn't have any money. I just got to pick up the phone and use these scripts. And if I do it enough times, I mean, just numbers tell me someone's going to say yes. And
Yeah.
I was already on a team. So I already had a track record to run with. I wasn't running on my track record. I was a new agent at the time. So I'm like, well, this is easy. I just got to get on the phones and use a script and then push my team's track record and see if I can get some deals. And so that was my first experience with Mike Ferry. Couldn't afford coaching at the time. $1,000 back then was a lot more than $1,000 today. But
Yeah, exactly.
but
I
but
know.
I got into coaching in it was
Oh,
'07 when I finally got into coaching.
so when you met Mike at the Action Workshop to when you signed up for coaching, which is a really big moment. I mean, I remember
It is.
when I went to my first production retreat and I signed up, but I didn't have any job. My wife actually helped me pay for it. She backed me the whole way.
Mhm.
What was your connection with the Mike Ferry organization between that time and when you actually signed up for coaching?
I would go to some of the events and retreats. I just had the scripts and I would photocopy that contact sheet and I would just make a bunch of phone calls.
Wow.
So I was like, if I just keep making calls, I don't think it's possible to fail if I talk to enough people. And so that was kind of my mindset. And I had the action workshop. I was so inspired. And then at that time, Nightingale Conant, the company, Mike talks about Nightingale a lot, well, Nightingale. I went onto their website. This is I'm gonna date myself. So I joined their insiders club. It was $650 for 24 CD sets. And so I went on there. Oh no, it's 12 CD sets. It was 12. 24 is Audible. Yeah. It was 12. And so I got 12 CD sets for $650. And so I just drive around. I got all the like Earl Nightingale and Dennis Waitley and Brian Tracy, you name them, and I had them going in my car. And then I finally had them all ripped down to the first iPod that came out, the screen on the front, and I put
Yeah.
my entire collection on there. And I had an aux cord put in my car, which they didn't have aux cords back then, and I would just loop it. And then I would start to buy all the Mike Ferry recordings, and I put them on there, and I would just loop it in my car. And then if I was showing buyers property, I'd have them follow me in their car because I wanted to have that looping between properties.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I was constantly running stuff in the background. I never had the radio on, very rarely. If I was like feeling like exhausted and I didn't want to learn anything, I'd turn on the radio, but it was so rare. I'd spend all
Yeah.
my time listening to all that stuff. So that was how I did it. And then in 2007 is when I finally got into coaching.
Were there any other options, or was it just Mike? You were like, "This is the guy I'm going to follow." And why did you decide to go in Mike's direction?
I was going to Star Power retreats with the leader of the team I was on, with Howard Britton, God rest his soul, nice guy. What They had a lot of superstar agents, but one of the things I noticed about a lot of them, they had a huge budget, so they were spending tons of money to get the business right. I was like, well, I don't have tons of money, and I'm not going to spend $1 million a year in TV and radio ads. And so I
Yeah.
was like, I'm like, the Mike Ferry system is really great because it's scripts, dialogues, objection handlers, it's skills. There's a sales system to follow. It's just a matter of putting in the effort, putting in the time, and having a strong mindset. And those are all things you can control. And so it just requires effort. It doesn't require a lot of money. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I have effort, right? So I decided I'm just going to put a lot of effort in. I'm just going to work. I'm going to follow the system the best I can. And like most of us, Mike says, how much of my system do you use? I'm like 20 or 30%,
Hmm.
right? But we're using it. We're using the skill sets and the mindset to get the business done. So yeah, so that's you hit a level. So I was only get to a certain level, and I couldn't get to the next level. And then I realized for me to go to the next level, I had to be coached by someone that could do more than I do.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you want to get to 200 transactions a year, but you don't have a mentor to show you how to do it, who's done it themselves, then how are you going to get there?
How many
Right?
coaches have
And
you
what
had with Mike?
challenges? Oh man, probably if probably five.
Five. Okay. And
Yeah,
you've
maybe
taken
five.
everything different from someone. I imagine
Oh
there's,
yes. Oh yes. Yeah, they've all had an impact on my life in many, many ways. Many
yeah.
ways.
Because I've always said that, yes, Mike teaches us real estate, but really we take that into our personal life, right? With our discipline. Obviously we're
Oh yeah.
friends. I think I met you at one of my
Yes.
first ever retreats, and you
Yeah.
don't just focus on obviously your business and your family, but you're into fitness too, right? This all
Yeah.
tied in together. Can you tell me a little
Yes.
bit, how did you become so disciplined?
Well, I think it was it Matthew Ferry who said, I can't remember where I go. I'm going to misattribute this quote, but pretty much discipline in one area of your life can lead to disciplines in other areas of your life. But a lack of discipline in one area of your life can lead to lack of discipline in other areas of your life.
That makes sense.
And
Okay.
and so I realized that if you're super disciplined, let's say with working, but you're not super disciplined with how you eat, how you sleep. Maybe you have more than a couple drinks, right? Like you're undisciplined in other areas of your life. It's gonna break down at some point.
Yep.
So the people who function at the highest level, and you'll see this when you go to a retreat. You try to go to a hotel, and they're like, you go to the gym at the hotel. You better get there early. And these Mike Ferry people are just lined up early, right? And they're packed, and you can't get in there. It's because they're all so routine driven, right? They're waking up early, they're doing affirmations, they're role playing, they're doing mindset, they're working out. They have a routine that they're in to get themselves in the right mindset to do their job at the highest level. And so we realize it's not just mental, it's physical, because was it Vince Lombardi who said fatigue makes cowards of us all?
Fatigue makes cowards
Right.
of us all. Okay.
Yep.
And this
And
is,
so
it
it's
is
like,
demanding, right? What we do with Mike.
oh yeah,
Yes, we don't have to spend a bunch of money, but even me, like by Thursday, Friday, I'm shattered for the week, right?
yeah, yeah, oh
It's
yeah,
but Mike
100%.
also encourages us to take weekends off. So it's more like a reset, right? Every Sunday we start planning
Hmm.
for the week. I love that about his system because everyone thinks real estate's 24/7, but I don't
Yes.
think Mike teaches us that. I think Mike teaches us the
No.
discipline that when we're working, we're working. When we're not, we're with our families. Is that how you feel?
100%. Yeah, and he does talk about control and discipline because in this business, this industry will take every minute you'll give to it. It'll take every minute of your life. If you let it, if you don't set boundaries, if you don't have a schedule, you will work yourself 7 days a week into a hole. You will, because it'll take every moment you let it. So you have to be disciplined. And a lot of times we find we're the most effective, or on the phones or in our business right before we go on vacation, because we have a schedule and we have to get everything done before we leave, right? And so we're like,
Yeah.
wow, we get so much done. And then we come back and we got all this stuff to do. It's because we actually have a timeline, we have a schedule, we have a deadline. If we don't set those time frames, we just tend to string it out, and we take longer to do things than we should, and we're not as effective as we should be. So time blocking, Mike talks a lot about time blocking, a lot about schedule. And that's the biggest challenge I see with most agents that are struggling. Even when I'm coaching some of my agents, it's like you have to schedule, you have to time block. If you don't do
Okay.
that, you might feel like you got a lot done that day, but when I look at what you did, you could have done so much more,
So
right?
what's your schedule today versus '07 when you signed up for coaching? Because, I still try and get 3 to 4 hours in a day of prospecting, but it gets challenging when you're managing a team or managing staff. But back
Yeah,
in the day,
yeah,
it was like 6 or 7 hours. We can just hit the phones all day. I've got nothing else.
yeah,
So how has your schedule evolved over the years? And I imagine you've probably become more efficient over the years.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm more efficient with who I call and how much time I spend on the phones. So I want to call the highest quality lead sources. I block about 2 hours a day for prospecting and lead follow up, because the
Okay.
rest of the time I'm either coaching my team, role playing with my team, or I'm going on appointments myself. I'm also dealing with a lot of internal systems that I'm building out for the team. So there's all these things that come on when you become like a team owner and runner, operator. There's a lot of things you take on. It's not for everybody, and
Yeah.
I definitely don't recommend it for a lot of people. Um, but yeah, so you do have to be very time regimented to pull that off. You do.
Okay.
You
So
can't just wing it. So mornings, like Mike says, mornings are for lead generation, afternoons
okay.
are for lead servicing or going on appointments. You don't want to mix those two things up,
So
right?
teams have been a big conversation in the last 3 to 5 years, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we have some amazing examples at the Mike Ferry organization. People like Bernie, Josh, yourself, who go on
yeah.
stage. They talk about being a team leader, but they also
Hmm.
talk about the reality of having a team, right? And we've got some very close friends, people like Lee Marcus, who I really look up to, who's gone
Yeah,
individual agent to a team and now compressed it a little bit. What is
yep.
your team set up, and why do you think it's so challenging to be a team leader?
Oh my goodness. How long is this podcast?
We've got about 15 minutes, so we'll spend the next 15 minutes on this subject.
Um, so I mean, the biggest challenge is with a team, right? So you're looking for talent on your team. You're looking for people you can pour into, but then on the flip side, you're looking for agents that'll be loyal, right? That'll want
Okay.
to stay on the team, right? And so you got to give them incentives to be loyal. So you got to give them leads, but then you have to hold them accountable to working those leads,
Mhm.
right? And so those are the challenges, coaching them, role playing with them, helping them handle, rejection. Um, one of the biggest things with my team is I like to give them a list of what I call the top 30 books you should be reading or listening to
Okay.
on the team. right? Because I know that 90% of their success is going to be their
Mindset. So
it's going to be their mindset.
Jason Penrose as a realtor, what's your biggest strength and your biggest weakness?
My biggest strength is my persistence to keep moving forward.
Okay.
Right. In good times and bad. I think I would say that was really evident to me during the '07 housing crash. Like that's what really shaped me a lot, was getting through the '07 housing crash. I mean, so many people lost their homes to foreclosure and short sale. I knew people committed suicide. I mean, it was a rough time for a lot of people. It was the greatest housing recession since the Great Depression.
Yeah.
So getting through that, and prospering in spite of it, and learning how to work and just continue to press forward. I remember one of my coaches, one time I was whining about something or complaining, and she said to me, she said, Jason, there are people working 2 or 3 jobs and they're making half of what you're making or less. And it's what everyone's doing in this economy to survive. So we're not going to complain about it. We're going to focus on what we can do about it.
Wow. I mean,
Right?
that one coaching segment was probably worth the whole year, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, when you're in coaching, you don't actually pay for
Mhm.
coaching. You get all these referrals from other Mike Ferry agents. This is, yes, I know it's
Yes.
expensive, and we push coaching because we've been through it. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I've got a justice to bring the next generation through, right? Just
Yeah.
like people did to me 10 years ago. People like Hal Swayze, yourself, Brady, Neil.
Yes.
You know, we've got to do that for the next generation to keep everything going. So
Yeah.
when that happened because I don't know anything about when the market crashed. I wasn't here. I was in
Yeah.
England. I was in a complete different career. My
Yeah.
exposure is The Big Short, the movie The Big Short. But
Yeah. Yeah. Right. That was it.
I imagine now in these tough times, quote, which to you is probably
Hmm.
not tough times, what we
Yeah.
do today or between now and the end of 2026 is probably going to
Yeah.
shape the next couple of years.
Yes.
What is the message you're delivering to your team in times where we're having an inventory, buyers can't get approved, they can't afford, or even sellers who are reaching out to you and saying they want to sell, but they only bought 2 years ago and they're upside down? How do you handle that?
Yeah. So one of the things I remember Mike saying, I can't remember what year, it was '07, '08. He showed a ship. It was a movie. I don't remember the name of the movie. I just remember watching this ship in a storm, and the ship was going down. Mike said, "If you're with me, you're not going down with the ship." And
Wow.
it was really powerful. And the whole room was full, even though the economy was going to hell. And it's because everyone knew how dire things were, and they were looking for someone to like show them a path of how they could survive like the worst housing market since the 1920s, right?
Yeah.
Since the Great Depression. So I do remember him saying something, and I say it to this day. So there's a few things, you can think of events in your life as a child that you went through, and you never forget them. They were usually emotional. There was something emotional that went with them. And so when I tell you about that coach who told me, everyone's working 2 or 3 jobs right now, it's like one of those things where that was over 20 years ago. It never left me. One of the things that never left me as well during that time was when Mike Ferry was on stage, and he said, the more uncomfortable you're willing to be, the more money you're going to make.
The more I'm willing, okay, say it one more time. Sorry.
The more uncomfortable you're willing to be, the more money you're going to make.
Okay.
And so he said, everything about this industry is uncomfortable. You got people who are upside down. You got people who are short selling. You got people losing their homes to foreclosure. Right? Buyers want to wait for prices to come down more before making an offer. Like, there's all these things that come up. And he said, you're going to have very uncomfortable conversations with sellers. And it's so true. I mean, I felt like I was a grief counselor during a lot of these meetings, and they were horrible. I would actually try to lighten the mood. I'd sit down, I'd look around, like, what are you looking for? I'm like, place settings. They're like, why are you looking for place settings? I'm like, because when I talk about price, I want to make sure there's no knives at the table.
Yeah,
And so,
exactly.
but it was being able to walk people through the reality of the situation and help them see where they are, what their options are going forward, and why it's probably best to go ahead and deal with it now and not wait it out.
Okay.
And so that's what we're getting back into now, is being honest with clients, being honest with sellers, right? And we've always been honest, but in our industry, I'm sure you've seen the same thing. You see a home come off the market for sale. You talk to the seller. How'd you arrive at the price? The agent said it was fair. The agent thought it was a good price. And you're thinking you got a price more than what you paid for it in 2022, and prices have been coming down since then. You've done nothing to fix the home up. What makes you think it's worth more than what you paid for it?
So what's
Right?
your, if that seller can't physically sell, because I think all of us
Mm,
agents, Mike Ferry, who are on the phone, especially expireds, are going through these
yeah.
conversations. If I was on your team and I was a team agent, how would you coach me through that? Is there a plan in place to try and stay in contact with them, get them in touch with a property manager in the future? Or is it like, if they can't sell now, they can't sell? Because I have a tendency to bring emotion into my business. You don't seem the sort of guy who probably does that. But I also imagine people like just the straightforwardness, like, no, you can't get this for your home.
Yeah. So you have to do it more. We're just talking. So obviously I have a nicer, softer way of saying it to someone. But what I want to know, and this is what I coach my agents, is like, why are they selling the home? Mike talks about pre-qualifying 100% of our appointments, 100% of the time, no exceptions. And we notice that the expired or canceled script has pre-qualification questions in it that lead over to the pre-qualification. We're always asking questions to learn more about why they're doing something. So in this market right now, if somebody is selling and they bought the home in 2022 or later, everyone's market's different. But in my market, if you bought in 2022 or later, there's a good chance you're selling it for less than what you paid for it. There's exceptions to that rule. It's not a hard and fast rule, but 9 times out of 10, that's what's happening. So question is, why are we selling the home so quickly? Did the last agent tell you that you're most likely going to sell it for less than what you paid for it?
Okay.
If the home can't appraise for more than what you paid for it, if it's going to appraise for less than what you paid for it, do you still need to sell the home? Tell me more about that. Why is that? Because I need to know why. Because if it's a job loss, we got a hardship. We got a divorce, probably a hardship. Right?
Yeah.
My wife was diagnosed with cancer. That's a hardship. Right. So maybe we're dealing with a short sale, right? Where there's a hardship that the bank's probably going to look at. Or maybe there's not a hardship. They want to sell. They're upside down. Okay. The bottom line question is, can you write a check to sell it?
Yeah.
What's important to you about the next house? What do you need in the next home this current home doesn't have? Right. Okay. Can you wait for that? My question is, if the market goes down for the next 10 years, are you comfortable staying here? Or are you going to regret it and wish you'd made the move? Right. So there's a lot of questions I have, and they're really qualifying the client to see if they have the motivation we need to help them. Because at the end of the day, if their motivation's not high enough to be real with the market and the price, there's no point in taking the listing, because we're just wasting their time and we're wasting our money.
So you're a pretty strong agent. It seems like your closing ratio is probably about 180%. What's your because you're strong. I imagine you're very strong on appointments, your closing ratio.
Yeah, I'm strong on appointments, and believe it or not, a lot of what we do is we probably cancel, I don't know, half of the appointments we set over the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, because when we do the numbers, we're running the numbers on the property, we're looking at the comps and looking at what the homes are selling for. If we realize that this person's numbers don't jive. I just got a message while we were on here. The appointment I have tomorrow, 4:00, it canceled. Why? I sent the guy the valuation in advance, like Mike says, right? Send the valuation. He's hoping to get out with a $2,000 loss. I'm like, you're looking at about 7 on the first price, and the second price we're looking at writing a check for 12. Okay. Well, he doesn't want to do that. Doesn't have the money to do that. So there's no point in putting it on the market, because that's what the homes are selling for, and I can't help them.
You're very strong. You've been with Mike 19 years now. I think everyone who comes across you looks up to you. I remember, again, you're not aging right now. I saw you on stage 10 years ago. You looked exactly the same, right? So
I appreciate it. Yeah.
I always wonder with people. I know why I keep coming back to Mike. It's a way of life. It's kind of like not a cult, but we're all in this together, whether the market's good, the market's bad. Why do you keep coming back with Mike? Because you're so strong. You're such a great agent. You've got a great team, but I love that you keep coming back to Mike's events and learning more. Can you just tell me about why you keep coming back? Because sometimes people say, why do you keep, even to me, they say, you've been with Mike now 10 years, you know everything. He says similar ideas, right? Why do you keep coming back to Mike?
That's a great question. So I say that one of the strongest things about the Mike Ferry organization is the friends that you make, like yourself, right? I've known a long time. And so some of my best friends are literally Mike Ferry agents. And our kids are literally, we watch our kids grow up together. We've experienced a lot of the joys of through the business and growing, expanding, and what's happened with our teams. It's good. It's great to see them a couple of times a year at the retreats and catch up and say, how's your kid doing? Oh my God, he's already out of college. He's already out of high school. Just how fast our families are growing up. And so just doing it together. And what's interesting is with like-minded people. So you have to get engaged. You can't just go to a conference and disengage. You got to get in coaching. You got to make friends. You got to get into mastermind groups. You got to make close friends with people who are at your level or better, right? So that you can grow and learn together. And this is working for me. That's not working for me. Hey, have you tried this new thing? Oh, I didn't know about that. Grow together, expand together, because that's encouraging. Have accountability groups. You start to develop like a family, right? That you see a couple times a year.
Yeah.
And so you have these friends you've had forever, right?
Yeah.
And it's just good to hear. And you're like, if you're having a challenge, they're probably having the same challenge. You say, well, I'm trying this differently. Hey, that's a great idea. I'm trying this. Ooh, man, if I tried that in my market, I bet that would work. So you share ideas, you share thoughts. You're all going through it together, which is great to have that camaraderie.
No one's got secrets, right? No one's got secrets. Everyone's open book.
Now, yeah. When you get into a great mastermind group and a great accountability group, and you make those connections and you build out your businesses together and go through your ups and downs together, it's just, I can't imagine going it alone for a long period of time like that. I think that would be really tough and be a high failure rate if you don't have that support.
We all have yearly goals, monthly goals, quarterly goals. What is like a 5-year goal that you have for business and personal?
So 5 years, I see myself in 5 years not being in the day-to-day of going on appointments anymore and prospecting, more just running the team and developing it and building it out more, scaling it to be bigger than what it is, doing more transactions. There's a lot of talent on my team, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for them going forward. For them to have the opportunity, I need to scale out. But for me to scale out, I got to bring a few more agents in. I got to get their skill set up at a higher level for that to happen. As every team leader knows, that's what you're constantly doing, is looking for talent, developing talent, and then retaining talent. And then really taking care of your staff. Staff is really the biggest part. If you have constant staff turnover, it's a nightmare. Wow. So supporting them any way you possibly can and getting the best people on your team to work with your clients, that's where the 5-star reviews come from, right? The 5-star reviews come from having an amazing staff that services your clients at the highest level, where you constantly get 5-star reviews over and over and over again, right? Because as we know now, most people go, if they don't know an agent, they're going online to look for one. And if you have a great presence online and a lot of great reviews, that's the best marketing, really, is having a lot of great reviews. Because, I mean, you go out of town for a restaurant, what are you looking for? Reviews.
Yeah. You're going on Yelp, you're going on those Google websites. Exactly.
100%. You don't know an agent, you're probably going to go to homes.com or some other website to find a heavy hitter. I would, right?
Absolutely.
I would. I go to homes.com. If I didn't know anything, I go like, well, who are the top agents in this area? Who's selling the most real estate? I want to work with a pro. I don't want to work with some part-timer, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to do that. Then you're going to probably go to Google or go to Zillow and start looking at reviews and seeing, okay, well, this person's, they got at least 4.8, 4.9 stars. No one's got 5 unless they got 1 review, right? So I'm looking for the ones that are 4.7 plus. Okay, they're good 4.7 plus. They got hundreds of reviews. They're doing good, right? So that's what people are doing. They're looking for that. Well, how do I get that? You give people great service and you ask them for a favor. Would you mind doing this for me? It'd be huge for me if you did this, right?
No, it's powerful. And I think people are open to giving reviews too. So honestly, 30 minutes has flown by. I'm shocked. We're going to carry this conversation at the next retreat, me and you, okay? So we'll do this over dinner. But one bit of advice: you're an absolute superstar. You are so respected, not just in your market, but the Mike Ferry organization. One piece of advice to give the audience today. We're in July. It's 2026. Some agents are having struggling years. Like, what advice do you have to someone right now as an agent, whether they're either new or seasoned?
This too shall pass. Okay. This too shall pass. So if you're having a great year, great, right? If you're having a struggling year, this too shall pass. Nothing lasts forever. No market cycle lasts forever, ever, whether it's up, it's down, or it's sideways, right? Everything is in motion, right? So things are always going to change. The best way to improve your business, one of the best quotes I've ever heard, is the market's not going to determine if you make your goal, but the market's going to determine what you're going to have to do to make your goal.
Wow. Okay.
Right?
Say that one more time. Jason.
Yeah. So the market doesn't determine if you're going to make your goal, but the market's going to determine what you're going to have to do to make your goal.
So maybe 10x for the same results.
You might have to. So you should be tracking your numbers. Big on that. I'm huge on that. Track your numbers, know your numbers. If they're sliding, you're putting in the same effort, but you're getting less contacts on the phone. Well, you're going to have to spend more time, or you're going to have to change some lead sources or add some lead sources. You're going to have to diversify a bit. You might have to start a little bit earlier. You might have to work 1 or 2 evenings a week. You might have to do a half a day on a Saturday but you make the adjustments to your schedule so that you can hit those contacts, because you need those to hit your leads, to get your contacts, to get your goals, right? So we have to make those adjustments. We can't just sit back and go, well, let's do the same effort, even though the market's a little more challenging, and expect to get the same result. It's a little crazy. Right?
Okay.
So we have to press a little bit harder, work on your skills, and just really focus on motivation in this market. It's really about motivation. Realize that the people that are the most motivated are the easiest ones to work with, and the ones that leave you great reviews.
Yes. Okay. I got you. So get more reviews. This was like a 30-minute coaching call for me, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, listen, I really appreciate today. Everyone from the Mike Ferry organization does as well. You're a great role model to us all, and I look forward to seeing you at the next retreat.
I look forward to it, John. Thank you so much.